Hello, this is Daniel Mart, and today I'm going to be doing another video, basically another acting tip video for you guys. This time around, I'm going to be telling you guys the top 11 websites, in my opinion, that you guys should be on if you guys are actors or just want to get into the entertainment business, so actors, directors, producers, writers, etc. Like, so that type of stuff. It's mostly going to focus on acting. However, if you guys are directors or producers, writers, etc., 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 I do feel that some of these websites can help you at the very least. So yeah, top 11. The reason, basically very fast, because I was going to do top 10. However, the 11th one is one of those that I kind of considered, and basically I added it because I added the 11th one because of the fact that this isn't entirely for an acting video. This is for just in general, for, as I said, for directors, producers, writers, or whatever you want to do in the entertainment business. So yeah, top 11, and it is going to be ranked from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, from 11 being the one I would least likely use, however I still recommend, to number 1 being the one I would most likely use and one I highly recommend. I'm also going to be telling you guys which ones I have, because despite the fact that I do recommend all of these, I don't have all of these because I don't find them useful. I don't find some of these useful for my necessities at the moment, or just in general for me, because it's not my thing, specifically for number 11, but we'll get to that once we get there in about 5 seconds. So yeah, number 11, which is going to be. So for number 11, I chose Vimeo, or Vimeo, however you want to pronounce it. I've heard it both ways. Now, for me as an actor, I typically don't use Vimeo at all. Obviously YouTube, which we'll get to that later on the list. But yeah, for Vimeo, I find it really interesting because many directors, especially like student directors and people who are just trying to get their names out there in the directing or producing field, they typically tend to use Vimeo, as well as YouTube and some of the other websites I'm going to showcase throughout the video. However, they always start off with Vimeo for some reason, and part of the reason is the fact that it is a bit more business oriented. Unlike YouTube, it is a bit more business oriented. You do have like production companies, normally smaller production companies, local production companies, who are on Vimeo. However, some of those smaller production companies typically do end up seeing some of these student films that end up being there, and it is a great way of contact. So if you're a director, producer, a great place to put your short films or movies or whatever would be Vimeo, just because of that business and entrepreneurial perspective, and I really would recommend it for that case. YouTube's another great option, which we'll get to in later in the list, as well as some of these other websites. Now on to number 10. Number 10, I'm gonna have to go with LinkedIn. I actually do have a LinkedIn account. I actually haven't used it in a long time, to be honest. Haven't looked at it in about a year, because some of the other websites on this list kind of took just have dragged my attention away from it. So I should probably get on it soon again and just update the living crap out of it, to be honest. But yeah, again, similar to Vimeo or Vimeo, however you want to pronounce it, it does have that entrepreneurial perspective. Furthermore, it lets you connect to other people within that same field or similar fields. So networking is a huge part, and I could be doing a video soon, who knows, on networking. I still have to figure out the kinks on that video, but besides the point. But networking is a huge part, and I remember on my Vimeo I have a few directors, local directors, a few local producers, actors, and whatever, and it is a great way to just network all around and essentially prostitute yourself within your local community of actors, directors, producers, or just the entertainment business in general. And there's a quote, and there's a reason I said prostitute, but there's a really, I forget who said it. It's a person who, I know he portrayed Dracula in the movie. It's not Christopher Lee or Bela Lugosi, but I know he's portrayed Dracula. But he basically said that I'll prostitute my body to the highest bidder or something like that, and I really like that quote. And LinkedIn, in a sense, kind of defines that quote, that you prostitute your body, basically, your body of work and whatnot, acting or directing, producing, writing, whatever, and you'll basically prostitute it to the highest bidder, and basically how the connection works out. And I really like that quote, and I think LinkedIn, in a sense, embodies that quote. I don't know if you guys understand it, but whatever. Overall, from the networking perspective, I think it's great. So yeah, LinkedIn is the number 10 website on this list, and I need to update it, admittedly, but besides the point, I'll probably do that within the next few weeks once I get everything figured out. But yeah, now onto the number 9 website, which would have to be. So for number 9, I chose Actors Access. Now, if you guys saw my previous video, I actually did an intro to Actors Access, and you guys more or less saw my reaction to that. I really didn't like it all that much. I just didn't like the process of it. I just didn't like the feel of it. And for me, it had to do more with the fact that I'm based in Miami, where there's not really that big of a demand for actors. I just didn't feel it was right for me in my current situation. However, if you're living somewhere like in New York or LA, I could definitely see Actors Access being a huge help to you. Basically, what Actors Access is, it's a place where you could put your headshots, resume, etc., and again prostitute yourself to directors and producers in your local area and see if you could get casting calls and auditions and whatnot. For me, I just didn't find it all that helpful down here in Miami. However, if I were to go to say even Atlanta or New York, Texas, like Austin, Dallas, the Austin or Dallas area, or California, I could definitely see Actors Access being a huge help to me. For me, it's just one of those things in my current situation. I don't see it working for me because, and I kind of did the math in that video why I went a bit more in depth. So if you want to see a more in-depth view as to why I wouldn't work or do Actors Access in my current situation, go watch my previous video. I'll have a card at the end of this video for those who check it out. But basically, I just didn't feel it worked in my current situation. However, as I said before, if you guys want to find auditions or casting calls and you're in a bigger city where there's a huge film community such as Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, Austin, even Las Vegas, for example, or Seattle, those would be great places to use Actors Access in my opinion. And yeah, I mean even New York, because it's right next to New York. So yeah, I mean overall, maybe even Orlando. Like the farthest way, Orlando I could kind of see it. Actually, down here in Florida, I could kind of see Orlando, Tallahassee, Tampa, probably because it is closer to ATL. But right now, my current situation, I just don't see it working for me. So that's why that's why it's this long the list. However, I still do recommend it. Now onto my number eighth website, which would have to be. So my number 8 website would have to be Craigslist. Now I've done a tutorial video on how to find jobs on Craigslist. Definitely do check that out if you haven't already. And basically, Craigslist could go both ways. Let's say you're a director or a producer and you're looking for actors or writers or a director, whatever whatever you're looking for, cast, crew, etc. That's a great place to look for your cast and crew, and again, another way to network. Now, it isn't always going to work out. You may get a few crazy emails over here and there, or you may get some late as shit emails. Like, let's say your casting call for a cast and crew were, let's say, in January. You could still be getting emails for that same specific project all the way in December of the next year. So it could still work like that, which is kind of odd sometimes, but whatever, it is what it is. However, Craigslist in general is a great website. You could find, your cast and crew there. You could put a advertisement under gigs specifically and say, hey, I need a casting crew, these are the characters I'm casting, and or these are the crew I need, camera, lights, etc., sound, etc. So it's very good. As for an actor, you could definitely find great auditions and casting calls there. There are some things you do have to watch out for, like fake casting calls, where it's like these film companies or casting agencies such as Tech 9 or 99 casting call, or casting 360, like those are fake, obviously. And I've done a video on casting 360 as well. And yeah, I mean there are some fake casting calls which you do have to be aware of. Furthermore, unless you're into it, there are also a bunch of adult film castings, like for porn and whatnot. So unless you're into that, which you be you, but whatever. You do have to avoid those as well, unless again you want to do that, which is go ahead. But yeah, you do have to shift through a lot of shit to find good shit, is basically what I'm saying. But at the end, it's normally well worth it. And most of my projects that I've found have been through Craigslist. I think most of them, for the most part, they've been through Craigslist. I think aside from like one or two, they've all been through Craigslist. So yeah, it's a great place to find casting calls, and it's very interesting. So yeah, it is an interesting website, and you have to look through shit to get good shit, but the shit works. So yeah, again, prostitute yourself and to the highest bidder. Now onto my seventh most recommended website in my opinion, which would have to be. So for number seven, I'd have to go with Instagram. So yeah, you are going to see a few social media apps, websites, which again, websites I recommend. And again, this has to do with the networking aspect of it. Through Instagram, I've actually found one casting call, which is actually pretty interesting, and I actually did get the part. And so yeah, you guys will see it soon. But overall, it's a great website or app or social media application, whatever, to go through. Also, you could show your potential directors or people who are looking for talent. You can say, hey, here are my headshots. For example, I do have my profile picture on Instagram is my headshot. So you could be like, hey, here's my headshot. Hey, here's what I'm currently working on. What do you guys think? And it's just a great place to expand your horizon. It's not the best networking website, so to speak. However, it's a way for social media. It's basically the best way to describe it is you're showing possible buyers what you are working on at the moment. And there are other websites where I do think it is better. However, as a starter, Instagram will be a perfect place. I can't really. The one downside to it is the fact that it's mostly the pictures. So, and I granted you could put a caption, but if you have to tap on the see more or read more link or whatever after the caption because it's too long, it's just gonna get boring after a while, and that's the one downside of Instagram. And I think out of any of the social media apps I have here, Instagram is probably the least noteworthy out of all of them. I think it's the least accessible one in my opinion. There are more accessible ones, and that's why it's so down on the list. And yeah, and it's kind of basic, and that's the sad thing. But I do think it should be on the list, and I do recommend you have an Instagram account if you don't already, because of the fact that it could expand networking and whatnot. And again, most of these websites are about either networking or getting auditions / casting calls or whatever. So yeah, and that's why it's so on the bottom of the list in my opinion, is because you can't really do that much with it, but I still recommend having it. So yeah, I mean, there are going to be a few other websites such as Facebook and Twitter, which you'll see later on the list, which expand on this idea of showing what you currently have, what you're currently doing, possibly showing some headshots and whatnot. But yeah, but that's right now Instagram, number 7 on the list. Now on to number 6. As for number 6, I would have to go with IMDb. IMDb Pro, if you want to get a little bit more technical with it. But basically, if you guys don't know what IMDb is basically an online resume. Everybody who's ever been on film, TV, short films, etc. Should have an IMDb page. And granted, my IMDb page isn't what I want it to be yet, but that's because of a lack of funds. I don't have enough money at the moment to make it what I need it to be. Basically, it's preferable that you have an IMDb account, IMDb Pro account, because that way you could actually add a resume and your headshots and whatever. If you go on my IMDb account right now, it just says my name and it doesn't have a picture of me, and that's because I have a lack of funds. It's about $20 per month, or about like 150 per year, and I know I sound kind of cheap, but I just don't have at the moment $20 per month or whatever. 20 or $30, I don't remember, but something like that. So yeah, it's a bit expensive for me at the moment, and I'll probably for sure I'll have it prepared or done by the end of the summer for sure. But at the moment, I just need a bit more money, and yeah, I know, because I only really have for maybe about I want it for at least a year, give or take, something like that, or 6 months, so I could get fully accustomed to it. Right now, I have maybe funds for about a few, like maybe 2 or 3 months tops. So yeah. But basically, the best thing about IMDb, if you guys don't know, basically it's an online resume, and it's not just for acting. It shows what you've been working on in general. So acting, directing, producing, stunts, camera works, lights, so many things. They have so many subtopics. It's amazing. They even have a section where it's like miscellaneous, and you could literally be researcher, location scout, intern, caterer, whatever, all this other crap. So yeah, and even specifies like it could say director, but then on the side, assistant director. Like for example, director for movie A, but technically you're the assistant director, and then producer for movie B, but you're technically the assistant producer or executive producer, or whatever. And it goes into the specifics so well, and I just do like it. And you get to put like a mini bio or a full length bio depending on what you want, some trivia about you, trademarks. It's just a great website in my opinion. And yeah, I grant again, as I said before, I do need to expand on it a bit more, and I'll probably end up doing that by the end of summer latest. So I am getting there. So it is, but it's a fantastic, great website. And if you don't have a hard copy resume, one on like a PDF or Word docs, this is the next best thing. Next best thing in terms of resume, because it just has everything: directing, producing, acting, etc., etc., etc. The list goes on. It's just amazing in my opinion. So from a resume standpoint, so yeah, that is what I would recommend. Now onto the number 5 website, I believe. Yeah. As for number 5, I would have to go with Facebook, and more specifically, you should have your own Facebook fan page. Is more on the lines of what I'm thinking. I do have my own Facebook fan page, or whatever you guys want to call it, official page. So I'll probably link it somewhere. You'll see it. Besides the point. So yeah, kind of going off what I said with Instagram, it's a way to show people who want to see, know more about you, what you're currently doing, and just how you are in this professional field. And again, it's more accessible than Instagram in my opinion, because Facebook has been big ever since it was made. It literally killed off MySpace, so that just shows how big it is. And granted, it is getting killed off by Instagram itself and Twitter. However, it's still pretty big and dominant, and many people, especially older individuals, still use it. And that's more or less how you find some of your actors. And there's actually been a few actors, like local actors that I know, who have found roles off Facebook. Granted, not big roles, but they're notable roles within the local field. So it is pretty cool under that perspective. Furthermore, you're able to like pages, and granted, you can also do that through Twitter and Instagram, where you can follow or subscribe to certain pages. However, I think off just the following aspect of it, Facebook I think is the most professional, because it does have kind of a business aspect similar to LinkedIn, and that's a great way. And I think second to Craigslist, I think I've found most casting calls off Facebook and other Facebook pages. And even after that, you should also like or follow other Facebook pages, like local Facebook acting pages, or places where you could get your own or you could get experience from. So aside from having my own page down here in Florida, I'm following like 6 or 7 different casting call pages and film pages and whatnot, like film from Florida or Florida Friends from Film, or some crap like that. And there's like 5 of them that have the most similar names. So yeah, or films from South Florida and stuff like that. So you should also like pages and see what pops up, because again, there actually are some pretty interesting roles. Granted, every here and there you may get a casting 360 situation, which will get tiring, but it is what it is. Again, you have to shift through shit to get good shit. So yeah, so aside from having your own page, you should also follow other pages. And I think out of any of them, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, I think that's the best one to look for in that regards. So yeah, it's the most professional one, and also it's the easiest one to actually DM through. In my opinion, because I used to get to see it earlier. Instagram, it is a bit difficult because it is on your phone, and you do end up getting typos from time to time. I'm not saying you can't get typos on the keyboard, but it's better because you'll see it earlier. In my opinion, is just what I'm saying. Maybe that's just a personal thing, but just the way I like it. If you prefer Instagram over Facebook, it is what it is. But it's what I recommend. So yeah, on to the 4th recommended website in my opinion, which would have to be Backstage. I would have to go with Backstage as the 4th most important website for a person to have if you're an actor, director, etc. Reason being, it's similar to Actors Access. However, there are some benefits that put it over Actors Access, in my opinion. Yeah, first off, it is a bit more cheaper, so there is that. And granted, I'm not technically on Backstage. It's kind of a similar situation to me as I am in Actors Access. The only difference is that I don't actually have a profile per se. So yeah, but I still find, I just feel it's more comprehensive, and it's just more inclusive than Actors Access, and it's also easier just to look through their jobs. also, even if you don't have a profile on Backstage, you're still able to look through some of their casting calls, or most of the casting calls. The only thing you can't do is actually apply directly to the casting calls. Whereas in Actors Access, you can't even see these casting calls. And I feel like even if you see like a casting call, and let's say you're not, because of the fact that you don't have a profile on Backstage, you're still able to, like, because it says like the director or even the company or whatever. I feel like, and I've gone through the hassle of looking for directors and seeing, where's their email at, or Facebook or whatever, and being able to contact them. And even though I haven't been cast in anything, I've actually been able to audition, or at least communicate with the director or producer that, hey, can I audition? I mean, I don't have a Backstage account. I just, happened to stumble across your thing. Is it possible for me to audition? And I've auditioned for a few of them. Haven't been cast in any, but it's still a pretty cool website. And you do have to go through a bit of digging afterwards, especially if you don't have a Backstage account. However, it is good. Now, if you do have a Backstage account, which I actually do have a friend who has a Backstage account, it is tremendously helpful. And yeah, I mean, granted, he said, which is funny, which is just kind of the environment down here. He said, when I was down here in Miami, I just didn't get that many jobs off Backstage, let alone auditions or casting calls. However, he went up to Atlanta and then New York. He says, after I went down to Atlanta, within the first week, I got cast in like 3 different things. New York, I was basically a new thing every week, like 2 or 3 new things every week. So yeah, I mean, it does change. It's just the environment down here. There's just not that much acting in general, so, or kind of an acting film environment down here in general, so, which is the suckish part, but besides the point. So yeah, but at least you're also, even if you don't have the account, at least you're able to search up the people, and it does take a bit of digging, which is a bit of a hassle, which, it's kind of my fault for not having an actual account, but at least I can still search through it, and whatever, because again, compared to Actors Access, if you don't have an account, you can't even look through the casting calls. Whereas with Backstage, you can. Even after that, Backstage also has this separate little website called the Monologer, which I've done an intro to, and basically you're able to look through monologues and to audition for. And they also have their own side for tips, acting tips, which I do find helpful if you really want to go through them. I've read a few of them; they're actually really helpful in my opinion. I do like them, and yeah, some of them go in depth, some of them don't, but it is what it is. And I do, aside from it's just great, an all-encompassing website. You get casting calls, you get a few selection of monologues, and it is actually pretty like wide selections, like 2 to 5. I believe it's like 400 or 500 different monologues, both classical and contemporary. So it's a great selection in general, and I really do like it. And also the tips. There are some other things. You could add your own casting calls, which again like Craigslist, and Actors Access to an extent. You can also add your casting calls, which is pretty great in my opinion. So I do like it for that. For those circumstances as well. So yeah, Backstage would have to be my 4th most recommended website. And now on to number 3. Number 3, I'd have to go with Twitter. So yes, now this is when I was kind of debating over Twitter or Facebook, which one should go up. And the reason I basically put Twitter over Facebook, despite the fact that Facebook is more accessible and the most professional one, is because of the fact that everybody just uses Twitter nowadays. Everybody uses Twitter, and that's basically the main reason I put it on top of Facebook, because of the fact that everybody uses Twitter. I mean, yeah, although Facebook may be more professional, although it may have a bigger array of options, at the end, Twitter is the supreme king of social media. There's like no denying it, in my opinion. Like Instagram probably could probably give it a run for its money, and for sure Facebook. But right now, in my opinion, Twitter is the king. And like I said with Facebook, go follow pages that you want. Go follow pages, acting pages and casting call pages. Make sure make sure they're real, like legit. Make sure they're not fake, like some casting 360 bullshit. Make sure they're legit. But still, follow local actors, follow local production teams and whatnot, and local major casting agencies. Just follow all that and see what you get. And again, it is very helpful in my opinion. I will say though, I have yet to actually find a good, let me emphasize that, a good casting call that fits my personality or my characteristics or whatnot. However, I do see a bunch of casting calls that I typically don't see on Facebook, which is another great thing. And overall, the added benefit over Facebook is the fact that more people use it. That's basically the same thing. Everything I said about Facebook, more people use it. The one downside is the fact that you can't really make your own fan page per se, because you know it's one of those things that you can, but you can't. You know, just the way you run it. It's more or less on the way you run it. So yeah, it's basically everything Facebook is, only to a bigger scale because more people use it, and that's basically how I'm gonna put it. It's what Facebook is to a bigger scale because more people use it. So yeah, on to my number 2 website, right? 2? Yeah, 2. So my number 2 website is the website you guys are currently on, YouTube. So basically, in a sense, what I said about Vimeo or Vimeo, whatever you want, however you want to pronounce it, and basically you get to put on anything you want on this website. I mean, though controversy aside, recent controversies aside, um, which I'm not gonna get into that right now, but let's just say it's kind of complete bullshit. Besides the point, so yeah, basically what Vimeo is, only with a more commercial feel. It's more casual, and that's basically what the main difference is between Vimeo and YouTube, like in formats. One's more casual, one's more business, and I think that's why people like YouTube a bit more. Well, Vimeo you kind of do have to pay depending on what kind of account you have. That's also besides the point. But here you get to upload loads more. You get to just give an opinion over anything. And I think there's so many good short films. There's also many bad short films here on this channel. Not channel. Well, this channel, yeah, but also throughout the platform. And there's just so many things you could find different actors acting reels, directing reels, stunt reels, producer reels. There's so many things you could find out here. And it's just great. You can also put your own monologues, your own short films, your own videos, and see who actually whose attention you attract. I've gotten a lot of support from some of my short films that I've performed in, and as well as some of my monologues. So it's very great, and I really just do like it. And it's again just similar to IMDb, where you get to put in your own resume. This is, in a way, this is your own reel with different performances that you've done, either theater, short films, movies, scenes, etc., etc., etc. Just depends how you decide to run your channel. And overall, YouTube is a great platform, but there is one website that I think tops them all, arguably. You'll see why, and that website is your own website. Now, you got some of your guys are probably confused, like, what do you mean by our own website? Basically, forget YouTube, forget Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Vimeo, LinkedIn, Actors Access, Backstage, Facebook, IMDb, Craigslist, Twitter. Forget all the previous 10 websites I've said and any other ones you could probably come up with. I'm talking about your own specific website. Okay, so basically make your own website. Go like on Weebly or Wix or whatever, and straight up just make your own website with your own domain. And yes, it is going to cost a bit of money, a lot of money actually, which is why I don't have it right now. However, I think making your own website is the best way to actually get stuff. You could connect it to and it's just a great way, because even let's say someone stumbles upon your own website, you could literally connect it to all the other 10 aforementioned websites, and it's just a great way. And let's say you have a business card, you could say, hey, go to this website. So in my case, for example, let's say, hey, yes, go to www.danielmart.com. You'll see my reel, you see my resume, you'll see some of the other stuff I've been, and it is just a great way of communicating, networking overall. I mean, the one problem, depending on the person, it depends on the person too, is just how you commercialize it and how you advertise your website. So yeah, because you definitely want followers and whatnot, and you definitely want people to stumble across your website, and, gain traction and say, hey, you know that guy Daniel Mart, right? If you don't know, go check out his page, DanielMart.com. It has a bit of his bio. And again, it depends how you run your website. But I think out of any website, I think this is the most essential one. The reason I don't have it is because it will cost me a bit of money, in my opinion. And the thing is, even with your own website, don't go cheap per se. So if you're on Weebly's, don't have it be like, for example, DanielMart/Weebly's.com or whatever, because I know they're gonna add their watermark. No, you're gonna have to actually want to buy the domain and buy everything and whatnot. So it'd have to be like, for example, in my opinion, or in my case, www.danielmart.com. So yeah, I mean, you do have to add a bit money. I do think it is a bit expensive, more than Actors Access or Backstage, especially on an annual basis. However, it would end up benefiting you in the long run, in my opinion. Again, for me, I just don't have the money at this moment, so that's why I don't have it. So YouTube, that's why I think is the second best option, to have your own website. And then, yeah, but overall, I think having your own specific website will be the best. So that's basically it for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Just to go over the list one more time very fast: Vimeo, LinkedIn, Actors Access, Craigslist, Instagram, IMDb, Facebook, Backstage, Twitter, YouTube, and your own website. So that's basically the list. Do you think there's some other ones I missed? If so, comment them down below, and maybe I'll do a part 2. Who knows? Maybe top 5 or another 5. Who knows? And yeah, it's basically it for now. Subscribe, like the video, share, and that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart signing off.